we're going to do a little reading right now. The group now is pretty much almost solely focused on Ezra's eagle. That hasn't typically been the case in the group. As you know, Michael's written now going on 6 books, and is now going and writing his 7th with the Enoch series. Our focus has been a broad range of topics that full time. But now, as we approach the election, we're in the group, we're almost hyper-focused on Ezra's eagle, and with good reason. We want to see how this plays out, and we also, of course, kind of want to prepare ourselves for it. There are a whole variety of opinions on how this is going to take place and what it's going to look like. And so I thought what I would do was read the passage that we're currently waiting on from the Apocrypha, and in addition to that, read a little bit about what Michael's thoughts on it were, going back many years as he wrote the book Daniel 11, which ties Daniel's prophecy of the fourth kingdom in with what Ezra saw. And I think that would be beneficial, especially to our newer group members, to see that correlation and understand how those two prophecies are testifying of the same thing, which is what we're waiting on right now. Kind of a meeting of the two prophecies, if you will, whereas Ezra has been taking us through presidents since Herbert Hoover until now. It is about ready to intersect with what Daniel saw, the part with the what we call the 3 heads in Ezra's eagle, or Daniel calls the 3 horns. So with that, we'll do some reading, and I will try not to butcher it here. Bear with me. So from Second Esdras, chapter 11, starting in let's see here, verse 25. And I beheld, and lo, the feathers that were under the wing, that thought to set themselves up and to have the rule. And I beheld, and lo, there was one set up, but shortly appeared no more. And the second was sooner away than the first. And I beheld, and lo, the 2 that remained thought also in themselves to reign. And in verse 29, and when they so thought, behold, there awakened one of the heads that were at rest, namely, it that was in the midst, for it was greater than the other 2. And then I saw that the other 2 heads were joined with it. And behold, the head was turned with them that were with it, and did eat up the 2 feathers under the wing that would have reigned. But this head put the whole earth in fear, and bare rule over it, and all those that dwelt upon the earth with much oppression, and it had the governance of the whole world more than all the wings that had been. That's a pretty stark picture of what we're looking at here. A leader who's going to rule with more oppression than any of the leaders we've seen thus far. So something new. With that, I want to take us over to Michael's book, Daniel 11. This was Michael's 2nd book, like I said, and in it we are also going to be reading about Daniel's 4th beast and how that relates to Ezra's eagle. The account of the usurpation of America is not given in Daniel's vision, nor is the manner in which the stout horn eliminates the 3 foremost leaders. However, this information is included within the visions of Ezra. As such, Ezra's vision is a critical key to decipher and place into context the balance of Daniel's vision. Now I'm reading from Michael's book on page 52. This is in the 6th chapter. What Daniel sees next is the rise to power of the first of these 3 eagle heads, the greatest of the 3. This is the leader that Ezra said would place the whole world in a state of fear. It is therefore curious to understand what the first action of his administration is. And in in Daniel's writing, he uses king of the north and king of the south. And basically, Michael has placed those as being more symbolic in the latter days than they were in prior days. Basically meaning king of the north, we're talking about the king of the free world, or the leader of America. And so here we are talking about this first head in this context. And Michael says, "So the king of the north, now the most powerful of the three eagle heads, shall come and cast up a mount and take the most fenced cities, and the arms of the south shall not withstand, neither his chosen people," meaning alliances such as those Iran has with Syria, China, and Russia. "Neither shall there be any strength to withstand. But he that cometh against him shall do according to his own will, and none shall stand before him, and he shall stand in the glorious land, which by his hand shall be consumed." Curious wording. And Michael goes and gives some insight on this. He says, according to Daniel, the first eagle head will attack the Middle East with more force and power than any other ruler before him. Why? What is the motivation for attacking? Remember that President Trump destroyed ISIS and drew down America's forces in the region. What then would cause this leader to return with such terrible power and vengeance? I believe the motivation for this attack is a well-orchestrated diversion. The king of the south will take the blame for the destruction of America's government. Which country will this be? By the designation king of the south, we know it will be a Middle Eastern country. Logic can point us in the right direction from here. Syria has been greatly weakened by its recent civil war. Iraq and Afghanistan have been recently culled by the United States. Saudi Arabia is trying to strengthen its ties with us. The clear frontrunner for such a scapegoat by the process of elimination is therefore Iran. Does that sound familiar? Michael wrote this quite a while ago, and I think he's pretty close here. We've been hearing rumblings about Iran for quite a while, and it's only gotten more intense here as we've neared the election. There is evidence that framing Iran with a false flag event has been considered for some time now. The following statement from Patrick Clausen from the Washington Institute, given on September 21st of 2012, confirms this idea. So here's the quote from Patrick Clausen. "Frankly, I think that crisis initiation is really tough, and it's really hard for me to see how a United States president can get us to war with Iran, which leads me to conclude that if in fact compromise is not forthcoming on nuclear weapons development, that the traditional way that America gets to war is by what would be best for U.S. interests. Some people think that Mr. Roosevelt wanted to get us into World War II, but you may recall he had to wait for Pearl Harbor. Some people may think that Mr. Wilson wanted to get us into World War I. You may recall that he had to wait for the Lusitania episode. Some people may think Mr. Johnson wanted to get us into war in Vietnam. He had to wait for the Gulf of Tonkin episode. We didn't go to war with Spain until the U.S. Maine was blown up. And may I point out that Mr. Lincoln did not feel he could call out the Federal Army until Fort Sumter was attacked, which is why he ordered the commander of Fort Sumter to do exactly that thing which the South Carolinians had said would cause an attack." He goes on to say, "One can combine other means of pressure with sanctions. I mean, the explosion on August 17th, referring to a high-tech explosive that damaged the power plant for Iran's nuclear testing site. We could step up the pressure. I mean, look, people, Iranian submarines periodically go down. Someday, one of them might not come up. Who would know why? We could do a variety of things if we wished, to increase the pressure. I'm not advocating that. I'm just suggesting that this is not an either-or proposition. We are in the game of using covert means against the Iranians. We could get nastier." Interestingly, Patrick leads with the phrase crisis initiation. In the context of his remarks, Patrick was clearly talking about manufacturing a reason to go to war. He suggested that using such false flag events were legitimate means to accomplishing a desirable end. War with Iran and the usurpation of the governance of America therefore becomes a diabolical way for the deep state to kill two birds with one stone. Regardless of whether or not Iran will be a scapegoat, whoever the scapegoat is, they will suffer a retributive attack meant to divert the world's attention away from the more sinister motives of recent events. If this country is blamed for a nuclear detonation upon American soil, as Vice President Cheney recently suggested, can you imagine the fury of the greatest of the three eagleheads that he could wield uncontested? God help that country if such is the case, for in his deceit he will whip up America into a lather of righteous indignation. Such brings new meaning to Christ's prophecy to the Nephites regarding the events that would take place in the last days because of the wickedness of men. Consider the following. These scriptures, which ye had not with you, the Father commanded that I should give unto you, for it was wisdom in him that they should be given unto future generations, meaning us. He did not expound all things, even from the beginning until the time that he should come in his glory, yea, even all things which should come upon the face of the earth, even until the elements should melt with fervent heat. 3 Nephi 26, 2-3. The only thing I know that can melt the elements with fervent heat is the destructive power of nuclear weapons. If Cheney is right, and Washington is destroyed with a nuclear weapon, America will surely respond in kind. There will be nothing but radioactive ash and vitrified rubble left of their smoldering country. What a terrible tragedy this would be. The King of the North's counterattack will be threefold: the utter destruction of the scapegoat, a terrible diversion, and a clear warning that the retribution of America is swift, overwhelming, and unstoppable. The shock and awe of the King of the North's attack upon the King of the South will make all other Middle Eastern wars look like a cheap box of fireworks. What world power would dare oppose the righteous indignation of America after such a brazen attack on its homeland? How many people will die as a result of this deception? What nation or coalition of nations would dare stand up against him under the horror of such circumstances? In the above passage, Daniel also referenced that this man would both stand in and consume the glorious land. The natural inclination would be to assume the glorious land is Israel, a land flowing with abundance and freedom. The people of America have always been Israel's greatest ally. This man will not seek to change that. Israel is not the glorious land Daniel is referring to here. Consider the following quote given on March 3rd, 2015, by Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, before a joint session of Congress. America and Israel share a common destiny, the destiny of promised lands that cherish freedom and offer hope. America and Israel are both promised lands. Indeed, America, the inheritance of Israel's birthright son, is the choicest of all the lands within the Father's vineyard. Therefore, this reference to the glorious land being consumed by this man is a reference to this man's role in overthrowing the God-given government of America, just like the Gadiantans of old. America is the glorious land in which this man will both stand, that is to say, rule the world from, and consume, which is to say, overthrow. The time will come for Israel to be consumed, but it will not be by this man's hand. A lot of us have talked in the group about 3rd Nephi and the events that led up to the Savior's first coming. I think as I read this, many of you probably picked up on some of the similarities between the events of that time and the events of this time, with our people who are now waiting for the Savior's return. The governance of America, I believe, is about to change, and in a big way. The prophecy of Ezra's eagle and what we find in Daniel 11 are talking about the same kingdom. I know some may disagree with that, but they both describe the fourth kingdom, and where Ezra's eagle kind of comes into the events that we just read about, Daniel's prophecy picks up. John's prophecy picks up. Isaiah's prophecy picks up. Those who have taken the time to study the Isaiah chapters and learn more about the message they contain, or the Father's message from 3rd Nephi, I think you're beginning to see just exactly why Ezra's eagle was so important. It literally gave us a connection point to these end of time prophecies from our current time. It revealed to us what kingdom we are currently living under, and the miraculous events that are about to take place. I hope that we will not just look at this as gloom and doom, but look at this as awaited signs that indicate that our Savior's time is close at hand, and prepare ourselves accordingly. And with that, I'll go ahead and end this, and we can talk about it more in the discussion below. Thank you.